The story didn't begin with an announcement or a confession. It began quietly, the way most rumors do now, with a blurry frame pulled from a hotel security monitor and a timestamp that fans zoomed in on again and again. It showed Lena stepping into a hotel lobby late at night, baseball cap low, mask half covered. Minutes later, Mio appeared through a different entrance. Separate doors, separate moments, but the internet stitched them together instantly. Within hours, screenshots spread across platforms. Some fans insisted it was coincidence. Others said the timing was too perfect to ignore. And then came the theories. The hotel wasn't random. It was the same one used by production teams during Lena and Mio's recent schedules. The same place celebrities often choose when they want privacy but not invisibility. What made the situation explode wasn't just the sighting. It was the silence that followed. No denial. No clarification. No carefully worded agency statement. In the world of celebrity culture, silence is never neutral. Fans began filling the gaps themselves. Some pointed out how Lena and Mio had been unusually synchronized for months. Similar travel gaps. Overlapping rest days. Matching city posts without tagging locations. Even their interviews had changed. Where Lena once spoke confidently and expansively, she now paused more often, choosing words carefully when Mio's name came up. Mio, usually playful and open, had grown noticeably guarded, smiling but redirecting questions with practiced ease. Online detectives dug deeper. They revisited old clips, slowed down behind-the-scenes footage, analyzed body language frame by frame. A hand lingering too long. A glance held just half a second more than necessary. A shared laugh cut abruptly when cameras turned. Still, another camp pushed back hard. They argued this was nothing new. That Lena and Mio were professionals who understood how public curiosity worked. That proximity didn't equal romance. That chemistry sold stories, tickets, and engagement. To them, the hotel's sighting wasn't proof of love. It was proof of strategy. The phrase clever PR began trending alongside their names. Supporters of this theory pointed to timing. 2026 was shaping up to be a massive year for both of them. New projects, new endorsements, new international attention. What better way to keep momentum than mystery? What better fuel than ambiguity? But then came the small details that didn't fit the PR narrative. PR teams love control. What unfolded around LENAMIU was chaotic. The hotel footage wasn't released through a media outlet. It leaked. The angles were unflattering. The timing inconvenient. If this were planned, it was messy in a way professionals rarely allow. And more telling than anything else was the reaction afterward. Lena stopped posting entirely for 3 days. No brand updates. No behind-the-scenes photos. Nothing. Mio, meanwhile, posted a single photo of a city skyline at night with no caption. Fans noticed immediately that the skyline matched the view from the same hotel. Coincidence, some said. Confirmation, others insisted. As the debate intensified, old narratives resurfaced. Critics accused them of feeding fans false hope. Supporters fired back, saying no one was entitled to explanations about private lives. Somewhere in the middle were viewers who simply wanted the truth, whatever it was. Industry insiders weighed in anonymously. One claimed the relationship was real but fragile, strained by schedules and pressure. Another suggested the agencies were at odds, unsure whether to protect privacy or monetize speculation. A third dismissed everything as overanalysis, calling it two exhausted people crossing paths in the same building. Yet the fascination refused to die down. Because what kept fans watching wasn't just the question of romance. It was the way Lena and Mio moved around each other afterward. At events, they weren't distant, but they weren't openly close either. There was an awareness, a careful choreography. When one spoke, the other listened intently. When laughter erupted, it felt shared, even across space. No grand gestures, no public declarations, just quiet alignment. And that, more than any hotel footage, unsettled people. If it was PR, it was unusually restrained. If it was real, it was fiercely protected. As weeks passed, the noise didn't fade. Instead, it evolved. Fans stopped asking, "Are they together?" and started asking, "Why does this matter so much to us?" Perhaps because LENAMIU represented something rare. Not a loud, headline-grabbing romance, but the possibility of connection surviving scrutiny. Of two people choosing subtlety in a world that rewards exposure. Whether real love or clever strategy, one thing became undeniable. Whatever Lena and Mio shared had weight. It changed how people watched them, how they listened, how every small interaction felt charged with meaning. And maybe that's why the question still hangs unanswered. Is the LENAMIU romance real? Or is it just clever PR? For now, the truth remains exactly where Lena and Mio seem to want it, somewhere between what's seen and what's felt, hidden in quiet moments no camera can fully capture. As the weeks moved forward, the conversation didn't slow down, it sharpened. Fans weren't just reacting anymore, they were waiting. Waiting for a slip, a confirmation, or even a denial strong enough to end the guessing. But neither came. Instead, Lena returned to the spotlight first. Her appearance was calm, composed, almost deliberately normal. She answered questions about work, about growth, about the challenges of 2026. Yet every time a reporter tried to steer the conversation toward Mio, her tone softened just slightly. Not defensive, not playful, careful, as if each word mattered more than usual. Mio followed days later, and the contrast was impossible to ignore. Where Lena leaned into quiet control, Mio leaned into warmth. Smiles came easily, but they didn't linger. When asked about rumors, Mio laughed once and said nothing specific at all. Just that some things were better understood over time, not explained. That single sentence sent fans into another spiral. Clips circulated of the two attending separate events on the same night, in the same city, within hours of each other. Observant fans noticed they wore similar tones. Neutral colors, soft styling, nothing flashy, almost as if they were mirroring each other without trying to be seen doing it. Then came the moment everyone dissected the most. At an industry gathering, Lena finished her speech and stepped off stage. As she passed through the crowd, the camera briefly caught Mio watching her, not smiling, not waving, just watching. The look was gone in seconds, but it lingered online for weeks. People slowed it down, zoomed in, replayed it endlessly. This isn't PR, some said. This is too human, others argued. Still, the skepticism didn't disappear. Critics insisted the mystery itself was the product, that every pause, every shared silence, every near interaction was intentional, that ambiguity was the brand. But if it was branding, it came at a cost. Both Lena and Mio reduced their online presence significantly. Comments were limited. Live streams stopped. Fan interactions became rare and brief. It was as if the noise had pushed them inward rather than outward. Industry watchers noted how unusual this was during a peak year. And yet, their popularity didn't dip. It grew. Searches increased. Engagement spiked. Projects tied to their names gained traction simply because people were watching more closely than ever. Every appearance felt important. Every absence felt deliberate. Some fans began reframing the narrative entirely. Instead of asking whether the romance was real, they asked whether it needed to be proven at all. Whether connection had to look a certain way to count. Whether two people could share something meaningful without performing it for the public. Late one night, a new rumor surfaced, not from footage, not from leaks, but from a simple anecdote. A staff member from a closed event claimed Lena and Mio arrived separately, left separately, and barely spoke in public. But backstage, they sat near each other in silence, occasionally exchanging looks, comfortable and unbothered. No touching, no whispers, just presence. That detail resonated more than any scandal ever could. Because if there was one thing fans had learned by now, it was that whatever Lena and Mio shared didn't need spectacle. It thrived in restraint, in moments that weren't meant to be consumed. As 2026 continued, one truth became impossible to ignore. Whether the hotel sightings were coincidence, whether the romance was real or imagined, whether PR played a role or not, LENAMIU had crossed a line where public curiosity could no longer dictate the story. They weren't feeding the narrative. They were living alongside it. And in a world desperate for answers, that quiet refusal to explain might be the most honest statement they could make. By the time spring settled in, the conversation around LENAMIU had shifted again. The urgency softened, replaced by something quieter but deeper. Fans weren't demanding answers anymore. They were observing patterns. Lena and Mio never appeared together, yet they were never far apart in timing. When one wrapped a project, the other surfaced days later in the same city. When Lena took a short break from public events, Mio's schedule slowed too. It wasn't obvious enough to be proof, but it was consistent enough to feel intentional. Then came the interviews that felt different. Lena spoke about balance for the first time, about learning when to protect things instead of sharing them. She didn't name anyone, but her words carried weight. She said some connections don't grow louder with exposure, they grow fragile. Fans replayed that clip endlessly, not because it confirmed anything, but because it felt like a boundary drawn gently but firmly. Myo, in a separate interview weeks later, echoed a similar sentiment without realizing it. Talking about trust, Myo said trust isn't built in public view. It's built when no one is watching, when there's nothing to gain from being seen. The parallels were impossible to miss. Still, the hotel sightings refused to disappear from the narrative. New angles surfaced. Not clearer ones, just more fragments. Different nights, different entrances. The same pattern, always close, never together. Some fans began to argue that this was the clearest sign of all. If it were fake, why go to such lengths? If it were real, why risk even this much exposure? The tension between those questions kept the story alive. And yet, what truly changed things wasn't another leak or rumor. It was what didn't happen. No dramatic fallout. No scandal escalation. No sudden distancing. Instead, Lena and Mio continued forward, steady and focused. Their work matured. Their performances deepened. Critics noted a new emotional restraint in both of them, a groundedness that hadn't been there before. Something seemed settled, even as the internet stayed restless. Fans began to split less and listen more. Some started saying maybe the truth wasn't a single answer. Maybe LENAMIU wasn't about romance versus PR. Maybe it was about two people navigating visibility differently, choosing quiet in an industry that profits from noise. And slowly, the narrative lost its edge. What once felt like exposure began to feel like respect. People stopped chasing proof and started appreciating what was already visible, the way Lena and Mio carried themselves, the way they spoke about life, the way neither felt the need to correct assumptions. By mid-year, the hotel footage had become less important than the absence of denial, less important than the calm that followed every wave of speculation, less important than the sense that whatever existed between them was strong enough to remain unnamed. In the end, the story didn't resolve the way scandals usually do. There was no confession, no reveal, no carefully staged moment to satisfy curiosity. There was only this understanding, slowly settling in among fans and watchers alike. If LENAMIU was real, it was real on their terms. If it wasn't, then the connection people felt was still genuine in its own way. And maybe that was the reason the story never truly ended. Because it wasn't built on shock or betrayal. It was built on restraint, on shared silence, on the choice to keep something, whatever it was, out of reach. In a world where everything is explained, perhaps the most powerful thing Lena and Mio did was leave their story unfinished.